Chapter 29, As We Turned. Suddenly, the radar started its warning, and as we turned to face our monitors, we suddenly noticed, the best way I could describe it, what appeared in front of us looked like a stealthy UFO. It was uncloaking and blocking our way. Our radar never picked it up till it started uncloaking, and I can't describe the dread we felt for a few moments. We could see it was heavily armed, and we both had a similar thought, which was that we might die now. It acted as odd as our machine. It too was stable and locked in midair now. It signaled us finally with its running lights. It was SOS repeated 3 times, then it stopped, and slowly it turned and slowly went northward. "It wants us to follow," Amy said. "Do you know who they are?" I asked. "The magnetic field is stopping me. I can't get much. They must be normal, or they would have shot us down. They appear not to need our technology either," she answered. "You're right about that." As we strapped into our seats, she added, "They're not transmitting anything, but they do want us to follow." "That's it?" "No, I feel joy, probably from them." "I get that." Suddenly we felt the same overwhelming joy. Describe to our guests below what's going on. They need to know too. Amy complied, and they were now witnessing this on the screens below. I slowly followed at a distance close to the ground, rising only when needed to match the contours of the terrain, which looked unworldly. It looked more like Mars or the moon, except now there was snow on the ground here and there. This was a semi-famous place and known for its appearance in this respect. I noticed that the destruction here was different than what had happened near coastal regions. It was as if a great amount of wind and sand had covered the roads and buried the houses mixed with snow, with an occasional glimpse of these from above because of the drifts. The snow was a mixture of sand blended into the drifts, which gave the eyes lots of contrast to be able to see rows and rows of drifts, one behind the other, for miles in places. Soon we were in the middle of where there seemed to be that there had always been nothing but wilderness, and no signs that humans had ever built anything on this terrain. We realized that about a half hour went by, and the craft we followed suddenly stopped in front of a range of plateaus which were semi-exposed in places. Then, about halfway up, on one of these, on its steepest walls, is where it hovered and turned to face us, and then went above us, looking directly eastward, then recloaked and became invisible, at which point an image of a stone and rock wall slowly lowered itself, revealing several people standing at the opening. The opening was large enough for that craft that we followed or us to go through, even side by side. Amy had calmed the passengers and witnessed what was happening. We slowly lowered our craft to get a better look at who it was standing at the opening. It was Magic, Carl, and Drew. They were now a little older looking, but it was them. Both of us let out the loudest yahoo ever. "It's our ground crew," Amy said excitedly. They waved us in, and we landed just slightly beyond the opening behind the steel hangar doors. Amy climbed back down the ladder like a monkey. Her dexterity was amazing as she waited for me to unlock our hatch, then slide down the next ladder. As I climbed below, I said to the new passengers, "It's okay now, we can all get out." They soon followed me out one by one, as I made sure they did so safely at the bottom of the outside ladder. The leader of the new group asked about their weapons. I said they'll be okay in the locker, they'll be safe there. We're all safe now, and they sensed the same thing and eagerly complied. A crew member came over and talked to Magic Square, and then to the group, letting them know they would be directed to an orientation intake area where they would receive information on how to function at the base and what was expected of them. The leader of the group of the survivors then had time to introduce himself to me, and we exchanged names. Then he followed the rest of his people. I then walked over to my friends, and we all embraced and shook hands. Amy was smiling like I had never seen her smile before, kissing and hugging our friends. I asked the first question, "Okay guys, how in the world did you do all this?" "Bloody hell, good to see you too, mate," as Magic shook my hand and pulled me in for a hug. Magic said, "Watch this, mate. You'll know everything soon." A door on the back wall opened. As it did, we entered in. This area was larger than the first. It was a hangar/shop. It gave us a view of some of what was back there, and there seemed to be one gigantic aircraft and several smaller ones like the one outside, guarding the base. Then a huge forklift device rolled out, went over to our can, and its forks never touched our machine, but still lifted the craft and proceeded with it into the back hangar. "Man," I said, "you guys have been busy, but how?" Carl spoke next. "We'll fill you in as we go. It's a long story, and I'll catch you up when you get settled." And then he added, "Wow, you guys haven't aged since we last saw you. That is truly amazing to see. This is exactly what science tells us will happen." "Yes, it's odd," I said. "This proves that Einstein was right about that, doesn't it?" "Yes, it does," Drew said. "We are years older, and you two are years younger. Now, anyway. How do you put that on a resume?" Everybody chuckled, and then Amy said, "I need to freshen up and change while my husband catches you up and tells you what we have found." Carl pressed a button on his watch and spoke. "I need housing personnel and a clothing specialist at the main hangar, pronto." "Amy, they'll be here in a minute to show you to your rooms, and you can pick and choose several sets of clothing from that department over there when you're ready, and we'll get your smelly man there soon too. Then you can catch him up on all the functions there, and we'll have his clothes sent there before he gets there. Cool?" "Yes, very cool, Carl. Love you." Then kissed him on the cheek. The workers were very excited and said, "We have been expecting you for years now, and after you clean up, we're going to take you to our beauty salon." At which point they all giggled excitedly as they left. It made my heart leap with gladness to see Amy this happy, and I was relieved that all the pressure I had on my shoulders now had left me for the moment. I now noticed how tense I had been, and for now I was finally able to let it all go. Magic and I proceeded to a cafeteria setting while Drew and Carl went back to what they were working on, and I got a cup of real coffee, and I then asked him, "Magic, how did you know we'd be back, and what happened when we launched?" "We were all on the edge when you first approached orbit, but quickly It turned to concern, then anxiety, as we watched a projectile almost hit the ship. But luckily, our radar default program worked. But then even more angst when you kept going and did not return to the original trajectory. It took us a while to figure it out with a few scenarios. Then we communicated, as you know. Then much later, a few days later, we knew why you didn't come right back, and we knew and figured where you were headed, then realized the timeline factor. We understood possibly that you could make it there and back in a short time, at least for you, if our machine would work as theorized. We waited to hear from you, knowing the approximate time it might take. We figured out what that procedure was. It was what you would do logically as taught. You were taught to test this for the test to the moon demonstration, and then something like this happened, which was unexpected. No one knew for sure if you two would figure out all the angles to survive it, so we waited. I asked why the program picked that star system. It was random as far as we could tell. It was a progression of picking different stars to steer around, but it stopped after the first choice and kept going. He then continued, and his expression changed to concern. Had you stopped and reversed, you would have run out of food and water, and we knew that, and hoped you did too. Your ship wasn't that advanced enough for that move. We didn't know for sure if you would try that, so we got time illegally on the Palomar telescope. We hacked in, and as they were watching that star system, we watched to see if a wormhole would flash and open, which in time it did. Then we knew. We waited, and then 7 years ago we got the message you sent from the Kepler System, which proved another theory. After we figured out how to hear it, the crazy part was we didn't anticipate that the shuttle would film you. We wondered for a while if we would be found out, but the conspiracy theorists took care of that. The government had to disprove them, so they became busy denying a lie. So what we now know is true and is safe. The fact is, there are others here more advanced than us right here on this planet now, working in the open with the new world government. So much for conspiracies. Damn, why the radio silence, I asked. I kinda know, but what the heck happened here? That's simple. Everything on the planet changed from analog to high-definition digital. So no one listens and no one transmits in those modes anymore, let alone shortwave. What the hell happened to the weather? Slow down, mate. We'll fill you in later. But I think you know, there's about 21 years of history to catch up on? This will take you a while, but you can go online in your room and search as much about that as you want in your spare time. We saved everything we could on our own internet, which is disconnected from the world's grid, and we added the news and propaganda that had been transmitted since about 10 years ago. We still monitor their transmissions and keep them. I asked, I see a kitchen over there. We need some food. What do you have to eat around here? Yes, of course. He waved his hand at the personnel at the kitchen, and one person came out and shook my hand and said, "It's finally good to meet you, Mr. Mike. My name is Donald. What would you like us to cook for you this afternoon?" "Can you cook me a cheeseburger with onions and fries?" "No problem, Mr. Mike. You don't have to call me Mr., just Mike will do." "Yes, sir," he said. I spoke up as in the past. "I'm not a royal knight either. You can call me Mike, Donald, and that's an order," I said jokingly. "Okay, Mike Donald." he said, and walked away giggling. I asked, he's joking with me, isn't he? Yes, it's his way of feeling out people since he's laughing. He really likes you. He's one of our best cooks and yet a fierce warrior. He knows more about calculus than anyone else here, but he also loves the kitchen. So we let him do what makes him happy. We try to do this with everybody, place them where they want to be, and that way there's perfect harmony. Where's he from? We saved him from Virginia. He's one member of 2 black families we have here. There's quite a diversity of people here. I'm kind of getting a picture of what's happening here, and I have figured out in general what happened, but sit and talk to me, I said. Well, the weather got worse, and then for the first 6 years or so, it stayed that way. Then it became a runaway train from the end of 2016 to 2024. Then a lull with what seemed to be regular weather, and by 2027 flooding and the Great Freeze started. Now it's sort of stable again, but with an ice age weather pattern which we are still learning about. Geology classes taught me about that, but I would have never thought I would see it. Very strange. We created and added a great deal of advancements to our technology in the first 7 years you two are gone. Then we decided to move the operation and equipment here. We realized what would happen in Florida before the great melt really started, so we moved our base to the property that Drew's father had left him in his will. It was perfect here, and we decided to make a bunker here. The town that was here was totally buried with sand from all the sandstorms that occurred around the time we were all well entrenched in this bunker. We were able to do all this with a similar technology based off what we use for our ships and your craft. Force fields, I said. Yes, he replied. There's more. That signal you sent from Kepler defied what was known about the speed limits of physics, which enabled us to learn about time travel. We couldn't let you know our exact location by transmitting directly to you for fear of being found because of our government now. They are in place with new benefactors, the aliens, who are what we were all warned about thousands of years ago, which was the Great Deception. Aliens, I said. We were attacked or chased by 2 jet fighters in Florida. Yes, aliens, but they still have 2 types of arsenals. You were lucky. We didn't have the weapons that you see on our ships now, back then. Even with those, we have to remain hidden. We are vastly outnumbered. So how do you keep all this going? Most of what we have built and the supplies we have had to dig out of the ice from different locations, that has kept us going. One of them is near here, Area 51, and near here and in Texas there are a couple military airplane junkyards we scavenge. Thanks to what Drew knew about this area, since he grew up here, it was easy. It was just a matter of logistics and determination. We figured out how to cloak 15 years ago. Without that, we wouldn't have made it as long as we have. Amazing, I said. Then, when the ice came, it was similar to what happened in Siberia to all the prehistoric mammals 12 to 13,000 years ago. Flash freezing at first, which killed millions, or rather billions of people, along with most of the military. For a while, there was no one to stop us from taking what we needed and wanted, till they regrouped. Now we have to be very careful. It was just a matter of adapting what we could gather to what we needed for our technology. The advanced weapons came from Area 51 along with the newest military supplies, clothes, electronics, military preserved food stocks being a priority score. Area 51 magic? Come on, tell me, was there anything there? You know what I mean. No, mate, nothing out of the ordinary. Only the latest processor chips and survival type stuff that we needed, and weapons were there. It was a ghost town with the dead and frozen in place in the hangars and at their desks. Gruesome scene. We agreed not to weaponize this technology or add weapons, but now, in the world today, I can't see any other way. Things have changed, so I understand. Well done. That's right, mate. The monsters out there are very wicked. Donald came back with the best looking food I had seen in a while. Then he asked, "Can I shake your hand, Mike?" "Sure," I said. "I want to thank you for all you have done and put up with, because without your perseverance, none of us and all this would not be here now," I said, trying to shift the attention over. "Without Magic's brains, we wouldn't be here either. And without everyone else here that have worked hard to keep all this going, including great cooks and warriors like you, Donald." He added, "Thanks again. It will be an honor to fight and be by your sides. I got your back." "Good man," I said, and turned to Magic as he walked back into the kitchen. I had to ask, are Amy and I going to get this all over the base, Magic? "Well, you're kind of venerated here, Mike, and the both of you are heroes here. You have given us all a destination and a goal. There are pictures of you two and all of the founders of what we have here in the main meeting hall as founding fathers and mothers, and all of this with our expertise in education and contributions inscribed on the plaques. The rescued insisted and voted on this." "Damn," I said. "Now they're going to know how much smarter you guys are than me." I made him laugh, and we both did. Then I asked, "How did you know about the destination?" "When Amy sent the message, we seen it on the screen to her left as you were leaving the Kepler System. One of your cameras was on it. There was no mistaking what you found there." "Okay, that makes sense. How many new people or crew members are there now?" "At first, we brought in 5 more experts and their families. These were people we trusted. Then, like you, we couldn't help but to rescue others that we encountered in great need or trouble. As you have seen, there are more normal people out there. We will try to save as many as we can." He pulled out a flask from his jacket and continued after a drink of bourbon, and then asked, "You want one?" "Sure, pour us one, and then do it again," I said enthusiastically. "We have a total of 240 or more, so now 251. There are about 30 children, counting the 3 children you just brought here." After a shot, he passed, and he continued, "If man is to survive, we need a good gene pool that will accommodate another bottleneck in our lineage, which is now in effect. It has happened before during our brief history, at least once in the past that we know of, and we're not sure how many would be a viable group, so we save all we can. We are now a hidden nation within a nation of evil intent, and your message that you sent 7 years ago gave us all hope, because when this world thaws out, it will be poisoned for thousands of years, till it cleans itself. Right now, it is frozen in time, and in that way, it gives us time to do what we have to make our move. No one wants to start out in the Stone Age, right? Then There it is. You got that right. How do you avoid poison water, I asked. 1,500 feet below us is an aquifer that isn't contaminated yet. We drilled and tapped in. We check it regularly, and so far it's fine, or at least till the ice sheet melts, at which point we have no idea. So how far have you taken the tech? Blimey, mate. We have, as you have seen, found a way to cloak almost any object we choose to hide. And we have the same success in time travel to the past. But it just opens up a window to the past, and a person can't really interact physically. It's like being a ghost or a hologram. We can't enter the past, but we can communicate mind to mind and see each other like you have. I tried to warn you. I was the one that showed you the bottom of the craft to give you the hint of where to go in the future. I tried to do more, but that was all I could do, remembering what you said. I guess I was destined. I wasn't sure till we built the ship that you described. It wasn't on purpose, it just became what it is as we gathered parts. So I knew that planting the rhyme in your head was me, to get you here. We tried with others, but they couldn't hear us. You really can't change the past, but we were successful in your path choices. The past was set, but not by us directly. That was you, I said, befuddled. Yes, I tried twice. The first time at your army base, but something went wrong and I was pulled backwards into the opening, and I couldn't reveal too much. You came up with it on your own, and it made sense because of what you told us about your stories, only we were the ones that made it come true. They were openings for us to work with. We were the first with this technology and the first to travel back. Who else could figure that out but you? So because you did it now, it only affected me now? That's right, mate. Only to get you here to find us. Remember, one of your own theories, you thought that what you were seeing was time travelers. Well, we can do that now. Then pass information telepathically as a last resort. We knew we were always a part of your past, but in this timeline, just recently was the only opportunity we could make that happen. So we didn't put two and two together till now also. We already knew you were coming back from the Kepler System, but how would you find us? There would be no paradox this way. Then the clues we left in the first bunker all added up to what happened today. With that written clue on the wall was us uncovering our bungs, but you would have found us anyway, right, mate? Who else would have told you in the past and present where to go unless it was us all along? Wow, I'm intrigued, I said. But back then it didn't quite work. You couldn't know till today how valuable that information was. I would have gone in that direction if I found nothing in Florida, and New Mexico, I think, would have reminded me subliminally, I'm sure. But that cinched it, I said. Now it dawns on me. The rest of what I witnessed had to be you guys. Who else, mate? But we weren't the ones in the star-shaped one or the big box with the red orb. Those are the invaders. Make sense now? We couldn't transmit a radio signal, and we never do anymore. But we tried to warn you. It was our destiny to do so for some reason, even if by sheer coincidence that I couldn't even find you. But then again, you told us when and where we could view you. We had to come through in your timeline in the past to communicate. But what I found was if you drift too far from the opening, the doorway, you will be pulled back and the window shuts down. We figured there's something else at play here which wouldn't allow a manifest reality time traveler to appear in the flesh in the past, but only information which could not be transmitted normally, only mentally. If there's a way, we haven't found it yet. So, information was the key. It's the key behind everything, including DNA. Wow, that's so twisted, I said. There might be a way, and now I have to wonder about something Amy and I seen. Was that the only times you did that? No, but it was the only time, as far as we could tell now, that a message was received. So who were they? They were who you thought, setting up and learning about us. Now I have to wonder, I asked, are we safe? I don't think it's a concern right now, mate. The concern now is that the evil in the world will have their day. Those subhumans, mutants, lost souls, are under those who have the same technology we possess, which means they outnumber us and outgun us, and sooner or later they will have more capabilities similar to ours, if not already. We don't know everything. If we have it, they have it, and they will and can eventually find us, overpower us. This is why we who are normal and moral need to escape far from here. So how do you communicate, I ask? We can't transmit communications a regular way. We can use shortwave or the SOS Morse code using shortwave. We can use it on analog using SOS because nobody even remembers that. But mostly now we use miniature drones to communicate, but we do listen to them and their broadcasts, which are now digital. That explains why we couldn't pick up any live broadcast signals. We weren't set up for that. Exactly. And lucky you weren't. You can watch all the news in real time and history here since you left. We have our own internal internet. He continued as I ate. They know we exist, and they know we have hindered their progress. They know we have taken normal people away from their grasp, so they look for us on a daily basis. They need people, and they find them out there still in the wilderness. There are little pockets of resistance, and when they do, they capture them, they convert them with implants, or they behead them if they can't convert them. Right now, we have outsmarted them with our new technology and our hidden base. We perfected and updated everything we have simply because we needed to. Our main big offensive weapons are railguns and particle beam weaponry, which makes the missile technology they still use useless. But the aliens have those too. Unless we are on the ground, they can't even see us, and we're working on that. Personal individual cloaking devices and personal force fields. I'm working on one more massive weapon. Damn, you boys been busy. So you can fend for yourself, that's good. But what you're telling me is it's time to leave soon now. Yes, and everything we have done till your arrival is based on that. You know, Magic, Amy and I planned to leave here anyway, and now there's no doubt. And all these people need to also. I'm ready when you all are, but I have to share some things with all of them and you guys. While I finish up my food, Magic continue. The Kepler System, what did you figure out about that system? We didn't explore it too extensively, but from what we did see, There are 2 planets that are habitable in its golden zone. One is Kepler F with an arid climate that may or may not contain life forms. We found as we orbited Kepler F that the aliens had an automated warning message to keep us off the planet, so we believe they have left it unguarded. But we also thought, and the feelings we got were that their main power source is there. This is what they operate on even here. The air looks like smog, might be lots of acid in the clouds. We figured the former inhabitants are here now and are controlling things, as you have mentioned, the aliens that are here now in control. They are in control of the leaders of Earth directly now instead of indirectly. All I have to do is confirm it to see what they look like here, but we know. There's a historical biblical connection also, because there is a dominant spiritual element to all of this. What it proves is a takeover is best done in secret, not with battles, but best done from within, and it seems to be a battle of principalities. This invasion has been going on for hundreds of years and possibly thousands of years. You know that. You'll have to see our logs. Kepler E, on the other hand, is habitable. It's about 1.5 times the size of Earth. There are animals there that resemble some of the domestic animals we have here or had here. And there are animals that are similar to our prehistoric Pleistocene era mammals, the large ones, maybe Miocene. Plus, and dig this, there's human habitation. This is why I need to speak about this directly to everybody, because it pertains to where we're going and who owns that planet. We recorded everything we could, including them. Darn, that's a great cheeseburger. What's the meat? We send out hunting parties for wild game, probably venison or caribou. We test it for radiation and biological contaminants. Not everything is infected, and animals are resilient, but very hard to find. We also do some animal husbandry here also from the ones we have saved. Yep, it's very good. Thanks, guys. It wasn't long that the new people that Amy and I brought in with us were entering the dining area clean and dressed with new clothes, all of them smiling and happy to also get some real food and a safe place to eat it. As I looked at his face, I saw Magic's attention turn toward the door as he proclaimed, "Who's that beautiful Sheila coming our way?" I looked over my shoulder, and it was Amy, all cleaned up and looking so good in her short dress and heels. Her hair was cut and with a new style. I had forgotten what a knockout she was when dressed up. Magic stood up and then lifted her and spun her around as she did a twirl and a curtsy. I then went over and hugged her as we were called by name from behind us by our former passengers. There were greetings, introductions, handshaking, and the women hugged Magic and us. The children all ran over, calling our names, and hugged us. That made us all feel good. It was obvious to me that they all had been oriented to who we all were and what we had done to a certain point of understanding. The parents couldn't thank us enough for getting them out of the cold and the wild. I was kind of embarrassed and taken back at the same time. Magic spoke and said, "Everyone grab a seat and order anything that's on the menu." Magic also got his share of thanks, as well as Donald did, as he showed some of what he was preparing behind the counter and through the service window. Then Donald signaled a helper to take everyone's order. Magic walked into an alcove and he brought out a bottle of spiced rum, then poured out shots for all the adults at the table, leaving it there while the servers poured sodas for the children and us. And we all cheered and clicked glasses together with all the adults as they then ordered something to eat. It was then that Magic, Amy, and I excused ourselves and continued with our conversation as we headed back to the alcove as Amy ordered something also. In a day or two, you will have to give a speech on what you learned and then show us all you have recorded. Carl is pulling the hard drives out and hooking them all up into the main computer of the base so you can demonstrate and have that as an option to tap in with a laptop, showing it on a main flat screen for all to see. Carl and Drew will also upgrade the can to the new technology so that it can be used as a scout ship for the cruiser. There was a hesitation in our conversation as Magic poured out another round of shots. Then our glasses were clicking again soon after. Meanwhile, you will get a new model we created, Magic said profoundly. I hope she's beautiful, I said, laughing at myself. Drew gave up on female robots a long time ago, he said as he cracked himself up now. I hope she's beautiful, I said, laughing at myself. Amy slapped me on my shoulder. Drew gave up on female robots a long time ago, Magic said as he cracked himself up now. Too bad that means she'll talk back. Amy slapped me on the shoulder again. Then Magic said, think of the can, but 100 times better. We have coated all of them with a type of paint based on nanotechnology which conducts electricity 10 times better than copper and whatever is there, and stores energy like a battery. This also helps in the cloaking technology. I don't know if I want to go back out there till we leave, Amy said. You'll get used to it. They won't even see you when you're out there. All of our ships are created with cloaking devices now, and very soon so will everybody who's on the ground. We will have personal cloaking devices soon, we hope. Amy asked, what's your overall plan, Magic? Magic Square had a concerned look and answered, Amy, there are still a few good people out there to rescue, and all of us here voted to do that for several reasons, at least as long as we can. We will leave soon, though. A bigger gene pool, she replied as she read him. Yes, and for moral reasons also. If we can help, we will. Some of the people here also hope to find those close to them still out there. Carl is missing his wife and 2 of his kids, for one, but he has the other 2. Reasons like that, mates, and Carl and all know our time is short here, so we look. He never said a word about it, she said. I feel so sorry. And he won't till he's ready to. You know, Carl. The 2 oldest children are here, though. Amy asked, so you guys have seen all of our messages? Yes, you have found another Earth-like planet. We know this. How did you know? When you sent the recording of Kepler E, it was on the screen behind you, my love. The Magic Square message must have blended with the inside camera. It was probably on. Oh, okay. You know we weren't going to tell about that till we arrived back here, right? Not to worry. It was an analog, Magic said. As far as we know, there isn't another Earth-like planet anywhere closer. He said the other reason to stay a little longer is gathering as much as we can now, food, building materials, and technical gear. We have gathered all the knowledge we can and have our own internet server to store it all in. You see, once we leave, there are certain things we can't manufacture, things that will take us time to develop once we settle on a new home world. There's also a world seed bank we are going to raid in Northern Europe so we can acquire some of everything they stored there. And there's a genetic zoo also to visit to save as much of our animal species as we can. We understand, Amy said. She looked at me and I agreed. Then she added, so what are you saying? We need Pepsi on another planet? We all chuckled. Sure, but a healthier version, he stated. Then he added, Pepsi and many other things that we can get in a very short time or make ourselves. So what's the pecking order here, I asked as it dawned on me. Well, Magic said, it's a parliamentary government and everybody that is on the council gets voted into position every year and everyone will get a chance to be on it. And there are laws that keep those leaders in line as well as all of us. So then I'm just a regular citizen now, right? Not really, he stated. What do you mean, not really? Well, mate, you and your Sheila are more like the Pope or the father-like figure or mother figure or any other way you want to describe it. It's how they feel about you, and for a while now you have been looked upon as angels who have come to the rescue. You mean more like the poop, I asked? Everyone laughed. Amy talked in my mind. I told her, I still have a lot of questions myself, and I'm sure you feel that way too, my love, but let's wait. Well, I wasn't expecting that, she answered worriedly, and added, that is a lot to uphold to. What the heck has happened while we were gone? It was a paraphrastic question not meant to be answered immediately. Amy then went to get her dinner soon and then quickly stopped to listen to the concern of Drew entering the dining room suddenly with his anxiety as he came into the room cursing. Son of a biscuit either, mother friggin' problem, shite. What's the matter, Magic asked. Trying to be able to get a human cloaked is so damn hard, but we figured out that it's the clothes. We need to have clothes-ons with masks and hoods that are cloakable down to the shoes with everything made out of metallic silk thread. What's so hard about that, I asked. There's no way to blend the two friggin' things together. It's never been done. We need something like glass cable thread, but stronger and more flexible. What about nature, I said. What examples are there? And I thought, oh, okay, how about spider webbing? What about that? It's clear like glass, strong like steel, and will reflect. He walked away with his finger in the air in a typical eureka moment for him, shouting for his workers who had been behind him getting drinks from the fountain to follow him back to his lab. Come on, dumbasses, let's go. We aren't done yet. He's kind of hard on them, isn't he? Has he turned eccentric? Yeah, but they love him. They know his quirks. You know he has always been that way. Somewhat. Thank God he's funny most of the time. It's in his Irish nature, Amy stated. Drew suddenly stopped in his tracks, and as his help bumped into each other, stopping behind him, and said, Magic, show them the latest tech while they're here. Okay, off with you now. Get some work done, Magic said, then rolled his eyes at us. They then scurried off as Drew muttered some undiscernible curse words in the distance at his people. I wanted to show you something. Come with me, Magic suddenly said as if absent-minded. We walked into a secondary hangar while Amy ate and talked with the others, and we reviewed all of the flying machines they had made then. We walked up on one that I now recognized from the past. Do you remember this one? He asked excitedly. Of course, I said. It's beautiful. It reminds me of the flying sub, denoting to the series Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. But it was bigger, We all grew up with that series. It's amazingly beautiful somehow. What made you build it like this? I looked at the bottom of the machine. It was unlike ours that had 4 crystals sticking out. This one had 12, but smaller. It was what I had seen while I was in the Army and that rainy night in California. Thank God. I thought I was crazy back then. Then it dawned on me, how the hell is it possible? I'll explain the science later. Well, my best mate, this is yours now, and it is the fastest one yet. This is the one that can open a window to the past, but you have to go through training to learn its newer capabilities and capacities. Look, weapons, I said. Yes, you'll learn about those too. No problem, was all I could say now, as I was surprised and honored all at the same time. There's more. This whole base is a flyable craft because shape doesn't matter. You're kidding me, right? No, I'm not. We have the ability to remove the top of this plateau because it's fake and leave with the base. It's our biggest craft. It's our biggest craft and totally sealable in of itself. It also can be cloaked. All I could say is, wow. Let's go and get Amy so you two can have some time alone. You stink, mate. You need to take a shower. You'll have a whole new wardrobe waiting in your room, and for now, if you need it, there's room service. Amy will fill you in on some of what you can expect from your rooms. Then after your speech in a day or two, there'll be a big party with drinks and dancing in the ballroom. We even have a band. Speech, I asked? Like I said, they venerate you two, and they all want to hear from you two about the discovery. All this was discussed walking from the hangar back to the cafeteria. Okay, they need to know everything, I said. Then I asked, how many people can you fit on the cruiser? Unfortunately, there's a limit to those. 20 with 4 operating the controls. It has a 25-ton limit in its cargo bay. 12 extra people on each of the freighters. The freighters and scout ships, which could add up to about 50 or so more. You have to figure the cargo and supplies and the rest of the people who will remain on the mothership or base. So right now, how many trips back here would you have to want to make? He answered, don't know, but if we come back to rescue more people on a supply raid, we would use 2 cruisers and a couple of fighters for that. There are 2 freighters out there right now, scavenging and gathering, and the one in the hangar waiting to go out when one comes back in. There's really no limit on how much we can get, but it is dangerous. Eventually, our enemies will take everything over. We also have a permanent bunker to accommodate 50 people if we have to make a return trip for some of them. We were back in the dining hall, and there she is, I said. Are you ready? Amy then asked, what year is this? It's December 31st, 2027, he answered. Wow, thanks. I'm exhausted. Let's go home, honey. We need rest. You guys go ahead and enjoy the rest of the evening and sleep well. Have a good night, Magic said. Good night was repeated by all that were present, and we left. With everything we had been through, sleep wouldn't come easy. There had been too much excitement and stress at the same time. As we got up from the table, she went over and thanked Donald and everyone that was helping in the kitchen for the late meal and service. I shook Donald's hand, and Amy hugged him. We then headed up to our rooms through the winding corridors and took different stairways till we hit what apparently was an elite area of apartments noticing now that the walls were covered with steel and no bedrock was showing anywhere. "You already know your way around here?" I asked. "Of course, you silly man," as she laughed at me. As we walked down a hallway, a person passed by and said, "Hi, Father Mike, Mother Amy." "Don't call me Father," I said, and Amy replied, "Don't call me Mother." And we both laughed out loud so the person wouldn't take offense. I said then, "Our first names are plenty, thanks." "No offense," he stated, "none taken." "Here we are," Amy said. She unlocked the door and we entered. "Oh, look, a real toilet and shower." So I immediately went in and shut the door. They must have been able to see the big picture ahead of time to have been able so meticulously in their endeavors to do all this. They had at least 15 years to do all this and another 7 till we arrived back home. It was technically and literally the biggest man cave ever. It was awesome. I came out of the bathroom after shaving and using cologne with just a towel wrapped around me and was handed a glass of wine, and we then linked our arms together, locking elbows as men and women do, and drank it all down till it was gone. There then came this overwhelming hot rush of relief that started in our stomachs. Then there was that look again. Her blue eyes were speaking words of passion and love. We set our glasses down. I dropped to one knee and grabbed her hand and kissed it, saying, "I'm here at my queen's beckoning." Then quickly reached up under her miniskirt and dropped her panties in less than a second around her ankles, and she then stepped out of them and with one foot flung them across the room with ease as I buried my face in her most precious gift. She maneuvered back a step using a wall for bracing. It was then that her scent was all it took to immediately arouse me and make my passion rise high. Her moisture was immediate, and after a short while I couldn't resist her for another minute. I stood up, reaching under her blouse, grasping her supple white and pink breasts with one hand as I grabbed her right hand with my left hand and forced it back and over her head. With my other, I stripped the rest of her clothes off, feeling every inch that I could of her naked skin, and I plunged deep into her, as far as I dare, then slowly, till she finished unfolding. Slowly at first, then as far as I could, suddenly, then, as she lifted off the ground, free in the air, wrapping her legs around me, I then wrapped my arms around her back and carried her over, still locked in position, where we both fell onto the bed. We continued for what seemed to be an eternity, as I absorbed every inch of her heat till I couldn't absorb it any more. Then, simultaneously, we collapsed together, achieving that final passionate release. We laid there talking, and after a time she got up and brought us another glass of wine. As I looked around the room, one of the things here that impressed me were the false windows that were really flat-screen TVs that you could select any outside view or recorded any scenic view to make it seem less closed in. The outside view was brought in with hidden cameras day or night or from their computers here. When we finished drinking our wine, we both entered the shower, and then she treated me like her king, while speaking in a few Ukrainian words, and then acting as a servant, making my passion rise again with her lips. Both of us were feeling wet, silky, and we continued our experiences as the water cascaded down, making every inch of our skin warm, as she stood up and turned, and then we joined again. We finished washing, and then we were walking about without any need for clothing. We got an incoming call on our window. Seems odd, but that's the way they set it up. The main flat screen served multiple purposes. The computer in the room could be viewed there also, or on its smaller screen on the desk. It was Carl calling. I answered, forgetting we were still naked and not knowing or realizing there was a camera for communication. Amy seemed to sense this and ran out of the living room cupping her boobs. I realized and seen it on top of the screen as Carl was turning red and averting his eyes. I said, "It's okay, she's in the bathroom now. Heck, they all probably seen us naked some 20 or more years ago on our ship," so I stayed and talked. "It's kind of cool in there," he stated. "A little. You know these things do what they want when they want. What's up?" "We unloaded your ship and the rest of the supplies and guns, and I thought I would come up and give you your weapons and talk. I haven't really sat down to talk to you yet. You and Amy and I together, you know, and I know you have more questions. Besides, it's been a while." "Sure, come on up. I'm not ready to sleep yet anyway." I then asked, "Does everyone get to keep weapons in their rooms?" "No, only the founders of our science, the original crew members. That includes you and Amy." "Okay, sure, I can see that." "The rest of the arms are kept in several weapons lockers around the base, except for those people on guard duty. Handy to all, but only those in charge of training and leaders or guards on watch. Guards can hand them out to everybody else if it comes to that. It's like the military and done with rank. That's earned through training." "Understood," I said. "Come on up. Hey, bring some rum and coke if you got it. And tonight is the beginning of the new year." "Sure, be there shortly." January 2028. The new year was about to be celebrated here tonight, but we were staying in. It was winter here in the desert, but without the precipitation now, and it was locked up now all over the world and on the ground. What people back in the day didn't understand was global warming was caused by men manipulating the weather by chemtrailing and using it for weather warfare. That's what caused the melt. And this is what it did. Next, Chapter 30, the history.